Oh, I knew something was wrong the moment I saw the timestamp. The security camera was showing my living room at 2:41 a.m. The problem was simple. It was only 1:12 a.m. As I sat there watching it, at first, I told myself the clock was just wrong. Cheap cameras mess up all the time. That was the most logical explanation. That's what I repeated in my head as I rewound the footage. But the timestamp stayed the same. It was defiant, fixed in the future. I had installed the camera because the house felt too quiet at night. It wasn't a peaceful silence, though it was an empty one. It felt like the silence was watching me, instead of the other way around. The house was cheap, cheaper than anything else in the area. It was the kind of cheap that makes you feel lucky. At least until you've moved in and spent a few nights alone. The camera faced the living room and the long hallway that stretched beyond it. There were no windows, no sources of outside light. It was just a deep, consuming stretch of darkness. As I fast-forwarded the footage, I noticed something else happening in that future moment. In the video, the hallway light turned on all by itself, too. I paused the screen, my heart starting to beat a little faster. I definitely hadn't turned that light on. I was sitting right there on the couch, and the real hallway behind me was still completely dark. I quickly checked the live feed, just to be sure. Nothing had changed in the present. But in the recording of the future, that single, naked bulb stayed on, casting long, distorted shadows down the hall. Chats, when I noticed the movement. A shadow passed across the hallway wall, slow and careful. I leaned closer to my phone screen, my eyes straining. The shadow looked eerily like a person. It was my height, my general shape. Then, as I watched, it walked calmly into my bedroom and disappeared from view. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just sat there, listening to the unnatural quiet of the house, wondering what was waiting for me in the hours to come. The next evening, I reluctantly checked the footage again. This time, the timestamp was even later. It read 3:08 a.m. The video showed my front door opening from the inside. I watched, my stomach twisting into a cold knot as I saw myself step into the house. But I hadn't left that night. I was home the entire time, trying to distract myself from the camera's silent red light. In the recording, the figure that looked just like me closed the door and stood motionless in the living room for a long time. It was just standing there, as if listening. Then, very slowly, it turned its head toward the camera. Its face was obscured by the grainy footage, but I knew it was looking right at me. The feed suddenly cut to a screen of buzzing static. That was the first time I tried to unplug the thing. I scrambled for the outlet, my hands shaking. But the camera simply wouldn't turn off. The power cord was loose in my hand, completely disconnected from the wall. And yet, the little red recording light stayed on, glowing like a malevolent eye. That night, I heard the footsteps. They came from the hallway, slow and measured. They were strangely familiar, the sound of my own weight on the old floorboards. I stayed in bed, paralyzed, staring at the ceiling and just listening. The steps would approach my door, pause, and then recede back into the silence. The next day, the footage showed me standing outside my own bedroom door at 3:22 a.m. I was just standing there, not knocking, not even moving, just waiting. I could see my hand on the screen begin to lift, reaching for the doorknob, but the video ended, cutting to black just before I made contact. It was in that moment that I finally understood. The camera wasn't recording ghosts or intruders from the outside. It was recording me. Not the me who was sitting there watching, but the me I was going to be. It was showing me my own future, one glimpse at a time. Shots. Every night, the footage jumped further ahead. And with each new recording, the version of me on the screen looked more tired, more hollowed out. In one video, I sat in the living room with my head buried in my hands, shoulders shaking. In another, I stood in the middle of the hallway, whispering something unintelligible to the empty air. The worst one showed me staring directly into the camera lens again. My face was pale, my eyes wide and frantic. My mouth moved slowly, forming silent words. Hope. I rewound it again and again, trying to read my lips. Finally, I turned the volume on my phone all the way up, pressing it to my ear. A faint, raspy whisper came through the speaker. "I can't stop it," the voice said. It was my voice, but it was strained, broken. 'Twas the sound of complete and utter defeat. I stopped watching the recordings after that. I couldn't bear to see any more, but the camera kept recording, its red light a constant, burning reminder. On the 7th night, I was jolted awake by a soft, electronic beep. The monitor on my nightstand had turned on by itself, illuminating the room in a cold, blue light. The timestamp read 3:47 a.m. The footage showed my bedroom. It showed my bed. It showed me, eyes lying there, my eyes wide open, staring blankly at the ceiling. In the video, I watched my future self slowly sit up. In my actual bed, in the present, I found I couldn't move a muscle. I was trapped, a spectator to my own actions. I watched myself on the screen stand up, walk toward the bedroom door, and leave the room without a sound. The feed then switched to the hallway camera. The heart pounded against my ribs as I followed the figure on the screen. It walked with that same slow, measured gait I had heard nights before. Step by step, it moved down the hall until it stopped directly in front of the camera. My future self looked exhausted, broken. He leaned close to the lens, his face filling the entire screen. He looked right through the camera, right at me, and whispered one final thing: "You're already here." The feed went completely black. Behind me, in the real hallway, a floorboard creaked under a heavy weight. It was then that I understood the final, terrible truth. The camera didn't record tomorrow. It recorded what the house decided would happen. And its script was now complete. The camera's little red light finally turned off. The hallway light flickered on. Nassau. The sound of footsteps began again, this time getting closer. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe for more.